accountability. I love and appreciate you all being here tonight. Before I introduce my panelists, I want to give my brother Lamont Collins to kind of set the stage, open it up for us. Where you at? Uh, I was gonna play a little 50 for a minute, KJ.
Theme music, right?
No, I'm just kidding.
I take this off. Can you hear me without this? Is it okay without this? All right. My name's Lamont Collins, founder and CEO of Roots101 African American Museum. If you ever been to the museum, the first thing I ask you to do whenever you speak, just like a football game, I'm gonna say Roots 101 and you say our house. You got me? Roots 101. Roots 101. Roots 101. Welcome to telling our story of the African American journey. This means a lot to me because when I started the museum 5 years ago, there's one person that said, "What can I do to help you?" And that was Shamika Paris. Where's Shamika? Yeah. Right, Shamika? And the only reason that we have protest of progress, that room I call, from what happened with Brianna, the tragedy of what happened to her, and from that tragedy, the glory of who she was and the resilience of the black community grows out of that room. And when kids come here, they leave here different than what they ever come. What I tell kids is that we're descendants of kings and queens that were enslaved in America. That's a game changer. When they understand the strength and resilience they come from, they walk different, they talk different, and they become different when their history is told inside them. It was an honor, pleasure, part of this. And when I say our house, I mean it's our house. We don't have to get permission to tell our story. Not a permission if you figure in this city, they talk about accountability in the black community. Well, you can't have accountability in the community unless you have accountability with those people that's policing this community. Yeah. So, this is the only way you can get that. I don't have to worry about nobody telling me I can't talk, because I'm always going to talk, right? But I'm going to do more than talk. I'm going to participate in the process that we move forward together. Thank you.
All right, before we get started, y'all, I'm gonna just give y'all a run of show. Y'all, please. I will cuss y'all out. Don't be interrupting my panel, okay? I'm just kidding. We're gonna do 3 segments. It might be 2 because I want to open it up to the Q&A. I'm gonna save the audience Q&A for the last. My intentions is hopefully some of your questions get answered from the panel. If not, we'll jump right into it. Don't even worry about it. So right now, I'm going to hand it over to KJ, and she's going to give us an introduction of our panelists, and like let's get loud and proud about them, y'all. Cause baby, they out here that do a lot of hard work. They advocating for our black bodies, our black babies, everything. So make sure y'all giving them a round of applause.
Peace and love, everybody. My name is Bianca Austin. That's BIANCAAUSTIN. I'm the Vice President of Families United, and I'm also the aunt of Breonna Taylor. We're here at Roots 101 African American Museum, and we're here to discuss the LMPD consent decree. So please join us, have a seat, go grab a snack, and tune in.
Hey, I know you're watching the live stream right now, but I want to take a moment to tell you to check out this new book right here over my shoulder. Believe me, it'll be worth it.
The lights of Kentucky Performing Arts shine on more than our shows. They illuminate a pathway of discovery for all throughout our Commonwealth. A pathway of creativity, confidence, possibility, of brilliance, inspiration, curiosity, and wonder. For 40 years, Kentucky Performing Arts has led a pathway to unite the Commonwealth around the joy of discovering the arts, and will continue to shine this light far into the future.
All right, last but not least, 2.2 for the next two, man. Yeah. Not the little. No introduction video, but we got Sharika there tonight.
She try to hide like always. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. She our special guest because she's special. I love my sister. We also got another special guest. Two special guests. I want to acknowledge my brother Jacob Blake Sr. He came in from Charlotte. He just had a toe amputated, and he said, "I'm gonna come and support my sister." I said, "All right, then, come on now." And his wife to be, her name is Yvonne Orr. Give it up now, Black Love, Black Love. Come on now. She is the sister of Delisha Africa. Delisha Africa was 12 years old, I believe, in Philadelphia. She was murdered in the move. If y'all do your homework, it's called the move, where they dropped a bomb on their house, and then as they was escaping, they were shooting them back in the house. So, um, and she's until this day, she's still out here fighting for her sister. She still has some remains that she's trying to get from the museum. So please follow her story. His family's been out here just still fighting to get some type of justice and closure for their family. So it's very important that we support. And I saw one of our panelists sneak in. So yeah, she tried to sneak, but we don't give her too fast. I'm gonna leave that to you, KJ. Yeah, she tried to sneak in, and she walked our way. Give it up for Miss Lanita Baker. Yes, y'all give it up for Miss Lanita Baker, y'all. Yeah, we need some legal up here, cause she stay be like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. I love what she said. You need something to drink? All right. With that being said, y'all give it up for our panelists, because y'all don't know how hard it is to get all these black women in the same room and we flyway on time. Yeah! I love it. So I'm gonna get right into it. The mission for this community event is to educate ourselves moving forward on the history of the LMPD consent decree. I know a lot of people is like, where did this come from? What does it mean for us? How does it affect us? It does. It's 209 pages of affecting our communities and policing. So I think it's very important that these women up here have been the backbone since 2020 behind getting a lot of this legislation passed. Number one, with the no knock, let's ban no knock warrants. We started banning no knock warrants back in 2021. We got that law passed here, not only statewide, but on a federal level. So, and it took the community to do that. And now we're also pushing for the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act that our Senator Morgan McGarvey is our is he congressman? I'm sorry. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning. But he's out here in the forefront pushing for our dear Queen, the Justice for Breonna Taylor. So make sure you all follow that. But today we about to pick this consent decree apart. So I'm gonna break it down into three segments. It's kind of like the first segment. We're gonna call it "How do we activate it?" and the history behind it. I'm gonna give these ladies. I don't want to give them, too much time, but uh, I'm gonna leave it up to them to give you the message that they need you all to know. I feel like um, we have our teachers here. Like, this is how I learned by watching these ladies, right? So get your pen and pad ready. Hopefully, they can answer some questions before we get to the Q&A. If not, um, I'm gonna jump right into it. So. Now, I just want Shamika to start off letting us know the history behind the LMPD consent decree and how did he get started and where are we now?
I want to also recognize that Juanita Baker and her legal team really helped get us here. And we don't talk about that enough. It's really hard. We are inundated with a lot of lawyers in Kentucky. I love that. But a lot of people are connected. And so when people stick their neck out for the social justice movement, it has ongoing impacts on business, on appointments to judgeships, and other things. And so when we have a legal team that is really willing to stand for justice, we must commend that because a lot of lawyers, and I'm not saying that nobody else was like, that they were scared to do it, but they also understand the ongoing work it takes to seal it in. And I also want to take the time to honor Breonna Taylor's family, Tamika Palmer, Bianca Austin, and all of them really standing and not letting her be buried because Breonna's not the only one. And if we don't work together, she won't be the last one. And I want to give a moment of silence to all the other victims of police brutality, all violence and police brutality that we will never know their stories. What's important to know, and I'll let Juanita get more technical, that's why I love when I have a legal person here, because I'm not a lawyer, and nobody wants to be an expert in consent decrees, right? We know that they are a necessary tool. The advocacy is a tool, the activism is a tool, the organizing is a tool. But the family really wanting to see this through is a huge tool that helped get us here. The fact that they included many of the reforms that our mayor and administration are bragging about, that started because in their settlement, they didn't just say, give me some money. They said, I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. I talked to Tamika Palmer outside of the jail as we were getting people out of jail, and she said, I would rather have my daughter here. She said, screw that 12 million. And so a lot of times in the media, this is why we must do these kind of events and tell the stories because there's a lot of organizing and activism and advocacy that happens that people love to write off. And we're not writing it off. Lord, you got us here. Give yourselves a round of applause. And I also want to thank Lamont Collins and Roots101 because I started my mayoral campaign here with my inaugural event, and I ended it here when I lost. But what brought me here was the people power that we built at Injustice Square. I never wanted to be an elected official. She knows that. I do like getting people elected, especially women, but I did not want to be an elected official. I saw it as an opportunity to be a tool. Some of us have to go on the inside. Nothing we've ever dismantled only happened from the outside. It took inside pressure and outside pressure to make that happen. And so this is Louisville. This is what's important to know. This is LMPD, Louisville Metro Police Department's second consent decree in recent years. As a reasoning with that, we've seen 4 black police chiefs. They had a problem with diversity many years ago, and some of you in this room were there when the first consent decree happened. So let's be clear, we don't talk about this enough, but this is the second consent decree in recent years for Louisville Metro Police Department. They earned this. Can we agree that they earned this consent decree? Who believes that they earned it? The federal oversight that we are seeking for, because I've heard in a recent interview that they said, well, it's just a draft document. But we know what this means. They're irritated by it. They don't like it. They've even said they don't tell us what to do. We're still going to run our police department. If they knew what they were doing, we wouldn't be here right now. If they continue to control the narrative, if they continue to use their way of policing themselves, more people will die. So it is important that we recognize that we need this. And I get it, it's hard. Yesterday, I attended the meeting with Congressman Garvey and about 20 other people, and we had to sit and think about 3 different avenues. If this judge who has shown to me extreme bias already, if he signs it and we get a crappy monitor, what happens, right? If he doesn't sign it, is there an option for the police department to make an arrangement with the DOJ and the city to do better? Do you trust without federal oversight that LMPD will fix themselves? I mean, who does? I mean, be honest. If you do, then, let's meet after this. The problem is without the federal oversight, we don't have the tool needed to seal in the changes that we've been seeking long before 2020, but definitely before 2020, definitely since 2020. And we know that even back in 2014 and 2016, we came up and there's studies and studies after studies and hundreds of thousands of dollars to say what our police department needs to do to be better. And we make things look good on paper, but if the police get behind you and you're the wrong color in the wrong area, that don't mean shit. And so the problem is the practice and the patterns of policing are not consistent, they're not equitable, they're not fair, depending on your zip code, your economic status, and your race. When I moved here over 20 years ago, I got to attend a civil lawsuit against police officers who shot a man that was handcuffed. Shot him in the back, he was naked and handcuffed. See, all these stories, it's been too many instances. So I just want to, my point in this and using advocacy, using my voice, using every hat that I wear is to keep this lifted, to keep the fire lifted. Because if we don't keep this lifted, it will just go away until there's another Brianna. And Brianna didn't want that. Her family didn't want that. And many families are thrusted into this limelight. And I will end with this. We have an icon in Cincinnati, Ohio, where it was under a consent decree. The community fought to be a part of at the decision-making table, and they won that. And then that Cincinnati had to start on those processes. But my friend Sam Dubose, there was video. They told us it wasn't video with Brianna, but now we know better. But there was video. We even have video, and it still wasn't enough. But what we saw was a community come together and work across lines of differences to come up with the best options we have. That doesn't mean that Cincinnati Police Department is perfect, but even the police officers there agree that a consent decree made a hell of a difference. And I've been telling people we can't afford this. Each year, and I'm doing more research on this, each year our police department sends back millions of dollars that come back to Metro government and that goes back out. We can afford this. Do not be fooled with them saying it's going to cost all of this money. And whatever it costs, I'm not looking at the outcome. I'm looking at what you're going to do before. So we have an administration that's trying to get extra credit for something they didn't ask for, something Brianna's family and her legal team asked for. They're trying to get credit for the things that they're doing, but they're not answering the real questions on what changes they're going to make to solidify that we will never have this happen again. And so we need that consent decree. And so I don't know why we don't look up the road. 100 miles up the road, we have examples of how they were able to do that. And the community stayed involved and stayed with that option. And so instead of we're okay with paying out the lawsuits and millions of dollars in lawsuits, and we're asking for changes that impact people's lives. So we need this federal oversight for this. And I don't know if we're too far in to remove Judge Beacon, but I'm very concerned for someone to show that much bias as a judge for an agreement that was already signed by both parties. So I think that if you want to go in particulars, I would like Juanita to do more. I'm here for the advocacy and to keep this lifted. Either way, we have to have a multifaceted approach, whether he signs it, then we got to focus on the monitor, and then we got to focus on what agreement or what we can come to make something happen. It's important for all of you to recognize that we all have a role in it, not just Brianna's family, not just the panelists. We all have a role to see this through. And our mayor wants to be reelected. We should never consider reelecting a mayor that won't listen to the community. Period. And that's where the people power and the organizing come in. If he wants to be reelected, he need to earn it, and he damn sure shouldn't get it if he doesn't do right by the people and doesn't support this consent decree with every resource that he can. The police have had someone at the table. We haven't. And so because we haven't had that, and because this mayor clearly has backtracked on some of the findings and things that have been, they accepted in the first place, then that tells me that they cannot be trusted to bring us the justice, the constitutional policing that we deserve by itself. So I do want to see this sign. I'm hearing that it's less than a 50-50 chance that this might happen from legal experts that are talking to me about it. But I do think that we need, it's not the best document, it's vague in a lot of areas, but I think it does give us a tool to move from. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamika. Um, so I'm going to piggyback since we on the subject of the federal judge that's over the consent decree. I believe his name is Benjamin Beacon. I'm gonna pass it. Lanita, what steps, actions can we take? Sitting still, waiting for his decision, and what do you think will be the community next steps? Putting, I got, I
I
lost my
mean,
train of thought.
I guess my thing is whether Judge Beacon signs it, like enters it, enforces it, even if he enforces it, we have to realize that Monday begins a whole new day, a whole new administration. So when we keep saying federal oversight, we might not have federal oversight for at least 4 years. Like, let's be real, like really real. Yes, we want federal oversight. Yes, we do need a monitor. But we have to realize that there may not be repercussions coming from a federal government, a Department of Justice for 4 years at least, right? Luckily, the consent decree and the monitoring program is longer than that. And I don't mean to sound like a downer. I'm just saying the question was, what do we do, right? We don't sit back and wait for a federal government to save us. We've done it. I do. I go. If I ever hear anybody in this room, in this city, ever talk bad about Kristen Clark, we don't have problems. We might throw hands. Because what I will say is that Kristen Clark, as the Assistant Attorney General for the Department of Civil Rights, worked her ass off up. But I got an email from her yesterday signing a new agreement with another city, and I'm drawing a blank on the lady's name, but the lady that was shot in her home in Illinois recently, Sonia Massey, that city. So she worked up to her last day in office for civil rights. And so I know at times it's like, oh, well, the DOJ, we don't know what they were doing. What I know is that this fell under her purview. And if I ever put my faith in anybody, it's going to be someone like Kristen Clark. I hope she goes and makes a shit ton of money now because she did more than anybody I've ever seen in that position. But her time is up.
I was about to say, like,
Her time is up. And so Shamika hit on it. Where we go is we hold the people locally accountable that we can. We can't wait for a federal. I don't even. We can't wait for anybody. We don't even know who the civil rights. If they could appoint an assistant attorney general for civil rights, like that division could very well be up for 4 years for all we know, because they told us they don't care about that. That's not a focus for them. Civil rights is not a focus for them, and it's just not as it relates to criminal justice. I have one of my best friends works for the Office of Civil Rights for the Department of Agriculture, and she's sitting on. She's been with them since 2008, 2009, and she's sitting on pins and needles about whether or not she has a job because it's a position that says civil rights, right? Um, we have to continue to hold people accountable. Shamika's right. A lot of the things that we have, the things that we negotiated in Breonna Taylor's settlement, some things were put in place. Some things were like, hey, what you doing about that early detection center system? You have it, you pay for it. You don't know how to set it up? Pay the people to come in here and teach you how to set it up. It's not that hard. If you don't know how to use the software, all of those people that sell you software, they'll pay you. You can pay a team to come and help you implement the software. What you need to track it. So that tells you officers who may have a problem. We have to hold people accountable. I agree. I didn't go to the hearing last week or in front of Judge Beacon, but when I saw the news and I wasn't surprised that the mayor backtracked and like, oh, we don't necessarily agree. So when we sit here and we talk about a judge saying they're just not gonna, enforce this, but like, yes, both parties have signed. The U.S. government has signed, the city of Louisville has signed, but our mayor really got in court and changed his tune. Like, yeah, we don't agree with these findings. We should be pissed the fuck off at our mayor.
yes, we should. Say it again.
We should. We have to know that whoever we elect as our next mayoral race, it's going to be on a nonpartisan ballot.
That's right.
We got to be like more vigilant than we've ever been about knowing who we are electing.
Yes.
We got to ask hard questions. Not just, you don't give me no sound bites that sound good. Like, we got to really start asking the hard questions. And sometimes we have to recognize to ask those hard questions, we got to invite more people to the table to know exactly what questions it, like, I don't know all the questions to ask. Like, no one up here knows all the questions to ask, right? And so I don't think our mayor deserves another 4 years based on what I think thus far. And what I know is this is the time that people should be throwing their names out there to say they running for the next year. So that we do have enough time to ask all the questions that we need to ask. And again, since this nonpartisan, we really don't know what we're gonna get. But what we also have to be careful of is that nobody slides through that is definitely truly anti. I don't know. I don't know. I like. I wish I could say what goes through the mayor's head. I don't know. Like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if anything's going from one side to the other. I'm like,
It was that drive-by before he got in office.
but I don't know. Sometimes I sit and wonder because you like, does he want? I always ask myself, like, does he really want to be reelected? And then he runs for reelection. I'm like, oh, he really wants to be reelected. Like, I've been saying that. I'm like, almost since a year into. I'm like, does he really want to be elected? And I'm sorry that anyone that loves him, fine, that's your mayor. But I got questions. I don't see the answers coming. We deserve answers. We deserve a mayor that is going to work for this community. And, and when I say this community, we do have to come to a place. FOP trying to intervene. Like, I don't understand saying, Judge, this agreement violates our contract. So your contract means you get to violate our civil rights, like our constitutional rights. How hard is it? Like, this consent decree says you gotta quit violating the citizens of Louisville's constitutional rights. How in the world does that violate any contract? And if you got a contract that permits you to violate our constitutional rights, we got an issue because we're going to be in another Patterson Park now in the next 4 years because they're not going to be investigating Patterson Park. But we're going to be, it's going to be just a short amount of time before we have another patterns in practice. And, I know I'm here and I get a lot of credit for representing the family of Breonna Taylor, but I still go back to part of that patterns and practices also involves stopping and frisking and illegal stops of people. I also had the privilege of representing Tayon Lee. And when Shamika said, like, we don't know if Tamika Palmer knows, nobody else would have taken her case. She talked to people. That wasn't on camera. Even one of my co-counsel, like, I'm glad you took that case because a lot of people just hearing the facts and hearing that a police officer got shot that night automatically scared. Also, a lot of people wouldn't take Tayon Lee's case because you look at it, you like, is there any money in that? And civil rights cases are not easy. They're hard. They're expensive. They take years. That was not the case with Breonna's case. It didn't take the years because it was a whole movement. And once it came out that there was that lie on the search warrant, which how we get search warrants, also a part of that patterns in practice, right? They've been violating people's rights and just getting search warrants. Um, lost my train of thought, but lost my train of thought there. But when we look at all of these things, it's been a build up, but it's a whole system. Judges sign search warrants. Judges get elected. We elect some judges. When we elect this next, whoever our next mayor is going to be, pay attention. Ask her questions. They can't, judges, when they're running, they'll tell you, oh, I can't tell you how to rule if abortion's in front of me. They can't tell you that. They can't tell you how they would rule in specific cases in front of you. But what they can tell you is that they're going to follow the law and uphold our constitutional rights. And they're going to ask questions of officers when they're coming to them to get them to sign off on search warrants or arrest warrants or whatever. So ask those questions of those judicial candidates. It'll be district court judges that will be elected. There's 16 of them, 16 district court judges in Louisville. Yeah, we got a few more years before all 40 we went down one, 42 now because we lost one district. So when we have all 42, it'll be probably another 6 years. But in the next couple of years, when we vote on our mayors, we will also be voting on 16 district court judges. District court judges sign search warrants, right? We will be electing our mayor. We will be electing the county attorney who represents the city of Louisville, who prosecutes misdemeanor offenses. We have to ask those hard questions, right? What other elections are on that day? I say all of this to say elections are important. Just like, so, and it starts local. We also have to know what local, metro council, mayor, we have to know the differences in what all of those people do. Congressman McGorvey, I think he's doing a great job in Congress. He is working on the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act, which will ban no-knock warrants among federal agents. What you guys need to know about that is it ain't too often that the FBI is breaking into your house, right? So I'm not saying we don't need them, we do, but we have to know proportionality. The act that that he is working on for in DC will apply to federal agencies. Most of the time, the people coming in your house, the people pulling you over, LMPD, that won't track down to them. But that's the authority that he has. So we can't ask him to do more than that, right? But we do want him to ask him to do more than that. Where he comes in there is, how is the federal government apportioning money? And they can do things like, well, we're going to give local agencies money if you abide by like you give them criteria, so you dictate funding. He can't do that in a bubble. It's an uphill battle with the next couple of years until we have another election, and hopefully we can turn some tides. I don't know. But I want you to kick it over to Couture because I know a lot of stuff. So some things when we get to talking about what we want police officers to do, when we want them to be accountable, blah, 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 we start to hear, well, we can't do that because state law says. And so there's legislation, when we're talking about police officers' rights, that we really have to understand those so that we can know how to craft them, how to work across the aisle. And that's the other thing. I'm a Democrat, obviously, you can't tell, but we got to learn how to work across the aisle. If we ain't learning anything, the numbers ain't in our favor. So we got to learn how to work across the aisle. And so it's figuring out how to work across the aisle to say, we're not anti-police, right? We're not. We want safe communities. Everybody wants to feel safe. Police officers should feel safe when they go to work. However, they shouldn't have to violate people's rights to feel safe. They can do their job and protect the people and not violate their rights. And so how do we get around those statutes, not get around, but amend those statutes such that we don't get a hold up in union contracts or this or that and when we're really trying to effectuate change. There is nothing in that consent decree that any good police officer should be crying about. But I also say us in this room, like, we do at some point have to figure out which and who, and they do have to be people with some power, but at some point we got to start adding police officers to this table. Yeah. Police officers that have power to affect change, even if that means some FOP people. Like, we just have to figure it out. Like, it's gonna take a collective. Like, if we're talking about it, like, we seem like just going head to head ain't getting us too far. So we got to figure out the collective. And I don't have all the answers to that because, I still got growth in me too. I'm still growing.
Right on.
Great answer.
Well, thank you, Lanita, for that. Y'all give it up for that. Give it up for her. Yes. We really didn't get a chance to introduce her. But wait, KJ, you said what? She a what? I don't think that's what she is. She's not no Kentucky rep. Wait a minute. Did you do your homework? I need everybody on the float. Everybody gotta be on the float. This one got sworn in. Come on, man. This is a huge accomplishment. Yes. Thank you for joining us, Couture. You know I love you dearly and I stalk you a lot all the time. Thank you for putting up with me. But Lanita mentioned that we got to have those hard conversations. So what I want to do is I want you and Attica to touch base because you ladies are the ones who've been in those rooms and had those conversations and had to ask those conversations. So, and then you guys also have been a force behind getting these laws pushed and being in those rooms that we can't be in. So, we would like to hear um, how do we start those hard conversations after Monday? You know, like what's the next steps for the community, especially organizations, nonprofits locally like Justice for Louisville, who's trying to find ways that they could, you know, get more involved when it comes to our policing and police brutality, pushing laws. I know sometimes we hear about these laws, but you know, we hear about them one minute and then they go away. You know what I mean? And so, and then even for you, Attica, being a victim of police brutality and still having to be in the room with those same colleagues of yours. So I want to let you ladies have the stage, and I just thought I really want you to push off what you think is important for the community to know. But
Yeah, thank you. First, thank you all for hosting this event and having me. Um, I think the biggest thing that we have to understand in the context of Kentucky is that the police brutality that we're seeing here in Jefferson County is actually happening statewide. And so we have done a great job of building coalition and working together and pushing our local department. But I think that as it relates to state law, in order for us to get some of the things that we need LMPD to do, it is state law that has to be changed. And in order for us to get that state law changed, we are going to have to build coalition across the state. And so, just 2 days before Christmas in London, Kentucky, there was a man who was shot and killed as law enforcement went to serve a warrant. They went and served this warrant at like 11:50 something at night, and the warrant was for a stolen weed eater. And so when you talk about the misconduct or the abuse of power or misuse of power and just what is happening, it's not just happening here in Jefferson County. I think it was 2 years ago, there was also a young man in Nicholasville, Desmond Ledoux. There was a mental health situation. He had a gun, he was in the house by himself. His girlfriend was there. She came out of the house. The girlfriend asked to go back in to get something. He allowed her to go back in and get something. He was not being violent toward anyone. And law enforcement literally laid on their stomach and shot him sniper style through the window. And so the brutality that we're seeing with law enforcement is not just happening here in Louisville. And I think at this moment it's going to be important for us to figure out how do we get across the state and start connecting with these other families in these rural communities. Because actually, there's actually a lot of police brutality happening in Kentucky. Yeah, a lot of people losing their lives. And so I think that the biggest thing is that we have to figure out how do we connect with those people across the state to build that coalition, to find out, to hear their stories, and to be able to push our elected officials. Um, because, you know, as we know in Frankfurt, we are in the super minority. We know that the power that the FLP has, but we also have seen nationwide that there are coalitions with some law enforcement, whether they're retired law enforcement, um, or just law enforcement doing, you know, work on different levels, that we do have to figure out how to build those relationships. I know that I've lost some of my contacts with some of the folks who were in FOP, and so if you all have law enforcement, I mean, our law enforcement are also amongst us. They are our neighbors. Your kids go to school with their parents. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You know, we're in community with them. They are black folks. They're LGBTQ folks. We have to find out who those people are and find out what it is they need from us and get them to inform us as well. So that is the one thing that I will say that we have to do But again, in this situation, as we're seeing with the mayor not wanting to, we're now backtracking, and then this judge sounding like he's not going to sign this. It is important that we do have also a long-term legal strategy, and we have to have a long-term political strategy. We've seen a lot that's happened on Metro Council since the election, but we have to have those long-term strategies. But again, I think the biggest thing around policing and the Commonwealth is that if we do not build those coalitions statewide, we're never going to get the things that we need here in Jefferson County.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you, Senator Couture. Attica, I also, a lot of people don't know that you were assaulted and wrongfully incarcerated during Breonna Taylor protests in a position, in a city official position. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience being a victim and having to go to work the next day, and kind of can you give us kind of the atmosphere on like what it's like, and what you think that we could do to make changes moving forward?
Thank you so much for that question, Bianca. And I want to start with honoring Councilwoman Parrish Wright because we were arrested together.
Yes.
And what you heard from her is why people in our own political party don't even want her in office, because she's holding them accountable as well. So when we were arrested, and I was with my teenage daughter, Miss Rhonda, we were all together when we were arrested. We were literally across the street from Sanctuary, literally across the street from Sanctuary. And we were targeted. We know we were, because we were also arrested before the curfew for our grown selves was supposed to be in place. So what I can say about going back to Frankfurt after that is having colleagues who said you should have been arrested. Y'all, and I didn't share this until months later, but some friends, I see Carla and Lisa out there, had for my birthday, us driving around the district in January 2021. We got death threats to my office in Frankfurt. Somebody literally said, if I was an officer the night she was arrested, I would have shot and killed her myself. I didn't share a whole lot with y'all back home because y'all didn't need to be a part of all that. Like a lot of it I held myself because y'all didn't need to be stressing and worrying about me being in Frankfurt. That happened. We had an older lady who called the office in Frankfurt and said, my neighbor has stockpiled weapons and our event was public. He's going to go to the event and he's going to shoot her. So those are the kind of things that I had to carry with me. So not only was it my so-called colleagues, but it was also people who had nothing but hatred for somebody who was showing up every day on the front lines. And I'll also say it was heartbreaking to work on a full ban on no-knock warrants, and then have colleagues in my own political party who didn't want to support that, because then they saw this white man, president of the Senate, come in and say, oh, I'll do a partial ban. No, that's not what the people were fighting for. The people were fighting for more because the people deserve more, so we don't keep hearing these stories of folks getting shot and killed in their own home and knocking on the wrong door. Yes. So, that's part of what I wanted to share. But I also want to share, Bianca, the point you made, which is this is coming from years of advocacy, right? Years of advocacy. Some people may have forgotten about Dame Yoon, right? But no, we remember Dame Yoon. We remember Michael Newby. We remember the people who have been killed by police for existing. So this 200 plus page consent decree is talking about sexual assault with LMPD, use of force, how they respond to protests. It's covering the gamut. It's not just one thing. So while it's not what the people's consent decree wanted, right, Shantae? It's not what the people's consent decree wanted, because we wanted much more. But it's what we have in this moment. And I do want to say a couple of things about Judge Beaton being in that courtroom on Monday. One thing he reminded me of is that the DOJ is law enforcement, because they are law enforcement. So I had to remind myself of that, just listening to him talk. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. Let me put some things in perspective. Like, they did the best that they could do under the circumstances they were working in, because LMPD and Louisville Metro government were not trying to be their friends in this process. Fought them the whole way, fought we the people the whole way because we were trying to get what you wanted in the consent decree. For nearly a year, we were working trying to get what you wanted in this consent decree, but they weren't having it. So it's what we have, and that's why some of us are fighting to at least get this approved by Judge Beaton, because we know that from here we can move forward with whatever additional local and state changes we need to have made.
Can you speak on, while you're on that subject, can you speak on the press conference that was held like maybe a week before it was actually signed, and what it was felt like for us to be demanding a response, and and then a week later, just, oh yeah, we've been making tremendous strides here. Can you tell us a little bit about um, how that came about?
Bianca, I was trying not to go there.
We going there. Let's go.
Because the mayor said we would have a consent decree in the fall.
Yes.
He said we were
Yeah.
going to have a consent decree in the fall. That did not happen. So we had the press conference we had to call out the mayor and to say, get on it. First of all, our first ask, though, because I want to be really clear about what the people's consent decree was asking for.
Yes.
They were asking for an open process so that we could see what was in this document before it was signed. Because we didn't know if harm would be signed into this document. So that was first and foremost. Then we were asking for the mayor to sign the consent decree. And then you're exactly right. A week later, oh, look, I wake up every morning and I'm working on the consent decree and I'm meeting with the Department of Justice and LMPD. And look, we have signed something that we are filing with the federal courts today. And then they were supposed to, just a day later, have the announcement made that they were accepting proposals for the independent monitor. That didn't happen until 10 days later, in the midst of Christmas, in the midst of New Year, and the people have until January 30th, 12 days, to submit their proposal to be the independent monitor.
This is what happens. This is these backdoor, undermined conversations that we are left out of, and then when we do find out about them, it's like fight or flight. So that's and we're going to go right into it. Speaking of coalition, this woman's been around for a long time, and I know she can speak on building coalition, building community, just standing in the face of adversity, just through a different multitude of things. And I know I call this sister all the time cussing, because I cuss a lot. And she be like, girl, you can cuss just look at me. But Sister Kathleen Park, you being the president of the Louisville NAN chapter here, when our senator talks about building coalition, can you give us some insight on what it's going to take for us as a community to start this coalition and keep the coalition, keep us motivated, keep us interested, keep us aroused. A lot of times I know I don't like to always throw Brianna's name under the bus every time, but it's the reason why I'm standing here. But before Brianna, like I said, you've been around, and I know you've been in probably groups that's been successful, non-successful. We know Nan's been around for a long time, but that's not that's not all what you do though. So just being a part of that, and um, give us your insight how we can tie that in with the consent decree.
Thank you so much for having me join these powerful Black women.
Say that.
It is indeed an honor to sit here with these beautiful Black women that are giving their lives to civil rights, human rights, LGBTQ rights, just rights, period. I'd like to backtrack just a little bit regarding the mayor. When the mayor was a candidate for mayor, Ron, I believe you were at that National Action Network meeting when he spoke. And the question came around regarding reparations. I can hear a pin drop in the room. He avoided the question, and finally he came out and said, no, I am not for reparations. I was through then. It was over for me. It was over for us. I knew then, and this is not personal, this is just political business we're talking here.
That's right.
Okay, it's never personal. But you're voting for someone to lead your city. Why would you vote for a man or a woman or anyone that's against you? We're talking about the history of our people. Yes, we had slavery in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We are descendants of slaves. Some people say, well, I'm not a slave. My ancestors were enslaved. It doesn't make, it's just, why are we going to get caught up in semantics? And then you have those that say, well, slavery was a business. Okay. It was a horrible business. Now, why am I talking about the mayor? And why am I talking about slavery? Let's put everything in full context here of why we are where we are today, fighting for a consent decree. It goes back hundreds of years, 200 years of being classified as 3/5 human. Forgive me. I'm not cursing, but I'm just going to deal with history. I know I will. I'm from the old school. We were taught not to curse in front of your elders. Yeah, let's go there. We were taught to respect our elders, to listen to our elders, to learn from our elders. Folks, I love everybody in here, but we've lost a lot of that. We've lost rearing our children correctly. We've lost a lot of that. Our core family values, we've lost a lot of that. Why am I sharing that? When we talk about Louisville's history of police unaccountability and city unaccountability, Louisville has a proven track record of systemic racism, discrimination against descendants of the enslaved people, people of color, both social and economic, dates back in this city, in my lifetime, over 60 years. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. We've got to go back to our legislative protections, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Why are we here? Dr. King gave his life for the Civil Rights Act. Now, why am I sharing all of this? What has this got to do with your niece, Breonna Taylor? Because of the way she was treated. Like she was the enslaved, like she meant nothing, like she was 3/5 human. Come on, y'all. But if you haven't been exposed to your history, you're not going to know. You're not going to understand. You're going to say, why did they do her like, why did they treat her like she was nothing? Why did they treat Kenneth Walker like he was a piece of you know what? You can say it. Yeah, say it.
Piece of shit.
Why does America treat us that way? Does America hate us?
Seems that way.
What is the definition of hatred? I'm not going to bore you all with this too much longer. So we had the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the 13th and 14th Amendments, which were the Reconstruction Amendments. The 1863 Emancipation declared 3.5 million enslaved Black people free. The 13th Amendment, Congress passed These amendments, July 21st, 1868, which were the Civil War amendments. The 13th Amendment, what did they do? What did the 13th Amendment do? Come on, y'all. Come on. Ended slavery, except, come on, Gracie. What was the exception for the 13th Amendment? That's right, except for the punishment of a crime. So if your police force, they know a lot about us. They know our history better than we know. That's why they know what they can get away with. The 14th Amendment gave you equal protection under the law. Why is that not happening? Why is it not happening?
You're not holding them accountable.
That's why I'm so happy that we've got these strong black women here. And the mayor seems to have a problem with strong black women.
Well, let's talk about it.
Keisha Dorsey. Say her name.
Keisha Dorsey.
There are many women that were discriminated, allegedly. Let me use the legal term. Allegedly discriminated against sexism, racism. Oh, come on. We know what's going on in this city. It's not only what we're going to do. What do we want to do? Are we going to work together? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the orange man is coming in with his agenda. We got to be ready for Project 2025. All politics is local. I'm glad Couture is our new senator. She's going to fight, but what are we going to do to help her?
That's right.
You understand?
We got to go down to the state.
That's right. That's right. We got to go down there. We got to be there. You got to call for us when you need us. We'll be there. Oh yeah, we got to go out because we're outnumbered. The Voting Rights Act of 1968. You know what I'm saying? So you got the Civil Rights Act of 1964. You got the Voting Rights Act. We got all these protections, but we're not utilizing them the way we should, Counselor. We got to go back to the basics. You don't vote nobody in office if they're against reparations. It's just stupid. It's stupid. We've got to collaborate with each other. We've got to work with each other. We've got to put our personal differences aside. This is about our people, us. And so, Judge Beaton, I knew about Judge Beaton. What other case is Judge Beaton? John Fitzgerald Johnson. That's who John Fitzgerald Johnson is, aka Grandmaster Jack. Held up his rifle in the air just to see what was going on with the flashlight. I have yet to this day, Counselor, seen any photographs that prove that there was anybody on that roof. Now, why am I juxtaposing that case with the Breonna Taylor case? They're very similar. Both of their rights were violated. Both of them are dissenting. You understand? And so we've got to come together. You were talk about building coalitions. We've got to come together. There is no other way, or we're going to become extinct. Look at our communities. When I was a kid, and I'm wrapping up, the West Louisville, Rhonda knows, was the most beautiful place. I'd put it up with any urban inner city area all over this country. Wouldn't you, Sister Rhonda? Beautiful. When merger came, we need to reverse merger. We need a black mayor like this sister over here that's going to stand up for justice. Oh, we ought to be having more applause than that. Shamika Parrish for mayor. There's going to be some other clowns that's going to run. You're not a clown. There's going to be some clowns that's going to run for this position, the mayor position, and they do not have your self-interest at heart. They've got their own interest. I'm 70 years old. I don't have nothing to lose. That's why I'm speaking out. I'm not afraid at all. We don't need to be afraid. We can't afford to be afraid. Let's stand up. Let's come together. Let's work with each other. Let's put our personal differences aside. Not to say that we have any, but I'm just saying, if some develop, set them aside. Support your sisters. Support your brothers. Honor these women. I'm going to support them 100%. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sister Kathleen. Give it up for these ladies, y'all. Give it up. All right, I'm gonna give y'all 2 minutes. I know everybody like, yes, it's my turn to ask questions. All right, give me 2 minutes, and we're gonna set it up. So we'll open it up to the floor for some um, questions and answers. If you gotta use the bathroom, go ahead. I'll give these sisters about 2 to 3 minutes to get their thoughts together and get a drink of water.
Hey, I know you're watching the live stream right now, but I want to take a moment to tell you to check out this new book right here over my shoulder. Believe me, it'll be worth it.
To those in our community who demanded change, thank you for speaking up. To our community, thank you for your partnership as we move forward.
Where we're going to be talking about the consent decree that was recently signed between Louisville Metro Government, the Louisville Metro Police Department, and the U.S. Department of Justice.
At the end of the day, the people of Louisville deserve constitutional and effective policing and nothing less.
Hey guys, before we get back to the live stream, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality Bar and Grill, located at 3402 West Broadway. You guys got to come and check us out. You can call your order in, and the phone number is 502-822-1474. Again, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality. Come check us out, guys.
Don't be shy. Come on, Dee. You started off.
Bring my computer with me. I can't remember anything. So my question. So my name is Zizi Packer, and I'm a professor and also a writer. I've been writing a long time about this. Thank you. So I interviewed the former director of the NAACP, Cheryl, the amazing Sherilyn Ifill, and she gave me this. She was very concerned about the consent decree and making sure it came forward, but also congratulating everybody in Louisville on holding the feet to the fire, congratulating the family, all of that, activists, Miss Parrish, right, everyone, Attorney Lydia Baker. One of the things she said, though, here in this interview, she said, your consent decree is only as good as the monitoring team. And without a good monitoring team that understands what they're doing, but also has the voice of the community and understands and prioritizes communication with the community and hearing from the community, the results will be dubious. And then she went on to talk about how that you can't do precisely what Councilwoman Parrish Wright was saying, like have the mayor or any of the powers that be dictate the terms, you know. So how is this going? How is this going with the monitoring team being set up, the independent monitor, you know, finding that monitor, you know, and making sure it's the one that everybody in the community wants and not the one that the mayor or the other powers that be voiced upon. Yeah, that's my.
Great question.
Yeah, go ahead. Can I add to that? Can I answer that question? It, let's just say that the judge is like, I'm out. I'm not gonna sign this.
Yeah.
And if we're saying that what we have, we're good with it, what are the other alternatives?
There you go.
What are the bodies that we already have that govern something that could take the place of what would have been set up under the judge's signature and that kind of formal process?
So can
That's a great follow-up, and I'm glad you added that follow-up, because if it's not signed, there may very well be, not may very well be, there won't be a monitoring team, right? And so there is that. So I'll kind of answer both. If it's signed and we do have a monitoring team, I think it's important that we continue, and though we've tried and we see this mayor is not the most transparent, I do think that we have to continue to hold the process of selecting a monitoring team, and it is a team, one person, like when you look at it and what has to be done and you look what's been done and what's been successful in the past, it is a team, right? Having a transparent process. Where are we? We're in the collection of proposals. I think they're due said January 30th. They're due January 30th. And so one, two, if people know either entities or individuals who should be applying, if you try to get on and apply, do that application on the 29th, your packet's gonna be crap and you're not gonna get selected. Like, let's be real. So when we're talking about stuff and we really want to put an effort in, you got to put the effort in to get something that serious that it is a serious program, and so we have to take that into consideration too. And if we are allowed to be a part of that process to selecting it, when we're looking at proposals, we need to make sure that it's people who have the capabilities of doing what needs to be done. And so that's not always the easiest thing to do when we're trying to figure out who it should be or who it should be, because we go back to, well, I don't really like them, I do like them, and maybe if they can do the job and they're going to be for the people and they're going to be pushing what the people want. Now, to the question of if it's not signed, we have things that are being called for. I don't know if that's me. I'm sizzling. Sorry, I consider myself a comedian sometimes. You gotta keep it light sometimes. But we have the roadmap that we need to hold people accountable, to hold the department accountable, to hold the city accountable, is within that consent decree. The thing I always say, and I know people get tired of hearing me saying politics, people scared to lose their job. Politicians lose their job by people. People choose them. So when Senator Herron, I'm gonna start calling her by her name, her title. I didn't do that earlier, but when Senator Herron said we need to make coalition with out in the state where they are also being victims of police brutality, she's not lying. Those races, and even our state representative, House representative, those state representative races, they have close margins. And so we're always looking at the mayoral races and how far those are. But like I look at some of those state rep races, state senator races, state senator is a little bit bigger of a margin, but those state rep races, you might get somebody to win by 4 votes. I think in one county, Bullitt County, a few years ago, somebody actually won by 1 vote. And so we're building coalition with those people. And what I know is not every Republican is crazy, but they all talk crazy right now, because if they don't talk crazy, they lose elections. But if we start to build coalition with the people in their communities where they might look at it like, that's an extra 25 people that might go over there and vote for somebody else. Their jobs are at risk. And so I talk about politics so much because that's where we have to change everything legislatively. And those people, if I don't know nothing else, they're scared to lose their jobs. The mayor is the person that we got a little bit before an election day. He could still potentially win us back if he does right by this consent decree. And I think that's almost how you got, like, you want your job, you better do right by us with this consent decree. I'll pass it on because I know some of the other ladies have some strong points probably with this as well, but we hold people hostage with their jobs.
That's right.
That's true. So the consent decree is a 5-year decree, just as a reminder for folks, because I don't think we said that in the beginning. The monitor is initially going to be hired for a 2-year term, making $1.475 million per year. They will be housed with Louisville Metro government, wherever Louisville Metro government puts them. And we need to make sure that and I learned this from folks in New Orleans who are under a consent decree, we need to make sure that we are monitoring the monitor. That's key, and the team, right? You absolutely have until January 30th to get in your proposal. So you've got 12 days to get in a proposal. 12, that's it. But keep in mind, this is a 5-year position under Louisville Metro government, but you report to federal judge, and that we, the people, have got to hold that person and their team accountable because it's not going to happen through Louisville Metro government. It's not going to happen through the Louisville Metro Police Department, and it's not going to happen through the U.S. Department of Justice. It's going to happen through we, the people.
Right.
And I'll be quick just to add to that. I once had a job where I worked as a third party, semi-monitor position where we helped families that were either going for permanent placement or reunification. So we were brought in as a third party contractor to work with the parents. So we worked with them to see if they were ready for reunification or ready for permanent placement, and our reports went back to the magistrate, to the judge. The kids had the guardian ad litem, the social workers, CPS, and all of that, but we were specifically brought in to work with those parents, and that is as a team. And so when she says the 1.4, that's for the whole team. And so that's why I want you all to remember that when people try to say we can't afford it, or when this budget cycle come up and they try to overinflate the budget, saying we need all of this. We have 1.5 billion that the police didn't use as an incentive for them to live in the divisions and the neighborhoods that they serve. 2 years in a row, neither chiefs had encouraged them to do it because they didn't think that that this was the right time for them to be pushing for them to live in the communities that they serve. So that 1.5 is already sitting there. I mean, we saw with the last budget a lot of startup programming and all of that. So please don't let that catch you up when budget cycle comes around. So nothing has teeth, as we talked about. What else is in place if this isn't signed? The problem is our civilian review board does not have teeth. Our inspector general can they subpoena Lanita? No, and he's having problems getting information. They don't work with them. So we have nothing else in place to hold the police accountable. That is our reality. And so don't be fooled by that. They will not get better by themselves. We know that. So diversify the people applying. There is, if you go to, is it LouisvilleMetro.gov, Attica? LouisvilleKY.gov, and then to search for the application, search independent monitor. I've asked people that are not here today to apply. You know why? Because as we were waiting and helping people that we know during the civilian review process, and we watched how they were grilled, I've said to people, watch your social media. Don't come to things like this, because they will not choose any one of us. And you know they won't choose me. I can't work another job. But they won't choose the people who've already been speaking out about it. You know that. I don't think it should be a former cop, but I get it. It lessens the learning curve that they already know about policing. So it could be somebody that, but we need to inundate them with applicants that are qualified to diversify. And there's firms that I'm told that do this work all the time. We may end up with an out-of-state entity or person. And so like Juanita and Attica are saying, it's going to be up to us to watch this process and follow whoever gets hired, because the administration will go through the application pool and put up the people that qualified, and the judge they say he usually signs off on their selection, but I don't know what happens. But that just tells you, that this city is good at already having their applicant and just doing this stuff as a process, right? So we don't want that to happen. And then the last thing I'll say is, when Lanita was talking about organizing, we're going to continue to do that. My organization, Vocal Kentucky, continues to try to organize across the state, rural, urban, and suburban. We know that things like asset forfeiture, wrongful convictions, and all of those things are happening across the state, as Senator Herron has said. So we continue to do that work. You have to help do the work, and nonprofits are doing that work, and also C4 organizations are doing those work. And guess what? Those are the hardest things to get funded. Advocacy services, advocacy and C4 work are very hard to get funded. So if you have funding to support C4 organizations, which can help shore up better candidates being elected and endorsed, that will change the process. And Lolita is right. I looked at the people who lost their Metro Council races within the hundreds. But if you compare to the amount of people that the other side were able to register, those are neck and neck. So they register people and then they got them to the polls. We have a great deal of people just not showing up, and so they are winning by these shorter margins. But the good thing is they won't have the Trump effect in a few years. But if we start and do this work 365 and not just in October, we can make a big difference because those communities are seeing us and we're building those relationships. So organizing has to be a part of this, and everybody has a role. And like Lanita said, I don't tell people to risk your job, but I do want to tell you all something. Since 2020, every time we were out there, we met with Fisher's team. We met with so many people. I never went to meet with the police. I sent other people to do that. But there have been police officers who have reached out in whatever channels they can to tell us about the internal issues and struggles. So there's people inside those police departments who are struggling from within and scared to speak out. So they have shared information with us. Like when they hold a press conference and say everybody must have their body cam on. As soon as they were done with that press conference, they went back. A memo came out, internal memo came out and said that's for lieutenants and down. And then when we raised that issue, because those police officers shared that with us, then we said, oh, wait, you said this in a press conference. Here's what you're doing here. They changed it and made a statement. So do not just go off of what's happening in the press. Make sure you show up to meetings, public meetings, and ask the questions because they're using the press to control the narrative. And that's why look at live streams, look at full meetings, read full meeting notes, get your comments on record at Metro Council and at these public meetings because those are what's in the book. Not a meme, not a song, not a quote. It's going to be what the people, the constituents have showed up to do. So we have to organize, and we also have to make sure good people apply. So if you know somebody who is familiar with law enforcement, who can apply, encourage them to apply. And like Lanita said, don't wait till the last minute. They got 12 days. 12 days. I think they already have some people in mind. I want to see more of our folks apply. And then the last thing I will say, stay with this. Don't find your part and do what you can, but stay with this by following the work. If you go to State Live Streams, he's already been doing a series of interviews with people who were part of the New Orleans consent decree with our inspector general. He just did one with the chief. Start watching that stuff, start sharing it. We got to keep this issue lit. Do not let them bury this like they tried to bury Breonna. Thanks.
I just want to point out, Shamika made a point about like the civilian review board, the inspector general. They really don't have, the reason they don't have any teeth or any power is because of state laws, which goes back to we got to win in Frankfurt, or we got to win over legislators in Frankfurt to change the laws that allow us, that will allow civilian review panel to subpoena police officers or police agencies, and they have to respond.
This is more so.
What?
Absolutely, Trust Maxwell. He came to Washington, D.C. To represent the National Action Network. There's going to be a rally at the Metropolitan AME Church in Washington, D.C., where the late Frederick Douglass was funeralized, where Rosa Parks was funeralized. They're going to be celebrating the dream and the history of Dr. M.L. King. They will not be at the Capitol. We've already been advised not to go to the Capitol, but to go to the church, go directly to the church. Be aware of your surroundings, where you are. Don't get caught up in any of the MAGA situations that are going on. If they say something negative to you, don't say anything back. Just keep moving, and above all, be safe.
So you said they already went against our 14th Amendment, right? So with this consent, what's stopping them from going against that? And and what is the steps we're going to take if they because we know they're going to mess up. This is common practice, right? So what's the steps to hold them accountable? What can we do as a people to actually hold them accountable? Because we already see what they're doing already. We just watched someone get killed again in prison. So what's the next step? What is the steps that we can take to hold them accountable with this coming out, if this passes?
I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing we've been saying, right? Not to be a broken record. Senator Herron, you going? It's not to sound like a broken record, but one, when they mess up, you have your civil rights attorneys that's going to sue. That's it. We have to always be vigilant in holding people accountable. You know, I think we have it, and it like when we talk about Breonna's case, it's been, and you know, I know Tamika Palmer's here somewhere, but to see her fight day in, day out, like this isn't it's been a long road. You know, Brett Hankinson, three trials, how's that third one that the AG's office did. But when you have, again, DOJ civil rights prosecutors, so that's why I say, like, I know DOJ, they're law enforcement, they are, but when I look at Mike and Anna, the two people that came down from Washington, D.C. to prosecute Brett Hankinson, and we'll also prosecute Joshua James and Calvini, and Hannah, who's also already pled. But Brett Hankinson has a sentencing on April 8th. I think that part of it is when these happen, those officers do have to be held accountable. So like on April 8th, I think, is that the right date? You just supposed to April 8th. It's his sentencing. When he is sentenced, like the judge needs to send a message so that no other officers think that they can never get away with that. You know. We have to hope that if Joshua James and Calvini do end up, that they don't plead, they go to trial, that we have another jury, which means y'all have to serve on juries when y'all call. Don't be trying to get out of jury duty. I wish they would call me, I've never been called, but don't be trying to get out of jury duty. But we have to hope that we have another jury. And I know you were out there late when we got the word, like we out there, like a lot of us with this second trial of Brett Hankinson, we were out there a few hours before, and they had just found him not guilty for violating the neighbors on. So we're out there just like, what? Like we're trying to figure. And the worst thing that happens is you're going through your head of like, what is that? And there was some sense of defeat. Like if they found not guilty on them. And like I had left, so we couldn't get back. Like you couldn't get, if you left the courthouse, you couldn't get back in because it was so late. But I was out front, 7th Broadway, across from the across from the courthouse. And when they texted me and was like guilty, and this was Kristen, the FBI agent. She was like guilty. Like I broke down crying, like literally in my car because a long time coming, and needed that. And I know Tamika needed that. And like I called her after the neighbor merge, she was crying then, but it was a different cry than after, you know, the second merge. So when you ask like, what do? We just have to keep pushing to hold people accountable. And when I say pushing to hold people accountable, it's the officers that are committing these acts, they need to go to prison. I'm glad the feds stepped in, but we need to make sure our local prosecutors are, I always talk about that old AG, some people's name I don't say, but y'all know who I'm talking about. But that old AG who tried to be governor, you know what I'm talking about? When that guy, we have to remember that the only reason his office even got it is because the Commonwealth attorney, who is not Jarena Weathers, Jarena Weathers is not her, but the person who was serving before her decided not to even, like, I'll wait, I'm sending it over to the AGs. Our local the people that we elect locally, so our Jefferson County Commonwealth attorney, our Jefferson County attorney, they have to work on our behalf. And if they don't, they gotta go. Right? So I'm always clear, I want y'all to know that the Commonwealth attorney that chose not to do anything on that case is not the one that's currently sitting. But look at what that office is doing right now, right? So always pay attention, and it can't be a short term, like you have to look at what they're doing long term. So that we're not always deflecting to the feds. It's not about the feds, it's here. So it's holding officers who commit the acts accountable, it's holding elected officials who owe an obligation to us for our votes accountable. And it's also holding ourselves accountable. So.
I would just add, I mean, look, Lanita hit it on the head, especially with those last comments, is that, you know, this is not new. And I think that one of the things that I have seen that we do is we see a little bit of action and we stop and we go home. Of course, we all have a lot of things to do, but people just go back and go silent as far as the work until something else happens, until really to the media says, oh, this thing is happening, and we're scrambling or making posts and talking to each other, what are we going to do? And again, it goes back to that building coalition. And, you know, something was said earlier that I just want to clarify as it relates to passing policy. And again, it goes back to the statewide coalition. After we passed Brianna's law here locally, I do want to say this, we got that done in 17 days. The local ordinance that happened here in the city, that happened in 17 days, and it was because of coalition. It was because of conversations with business leaders, with elected officials, with law enforcement, with Metro Council at that time, with advocates. That is the word. And when it came time to pass a law on the state level, yes, Representative Scott, she filed a bill. She was the first person to file a bill. But there was push from the other side to work in collaboration. And that didn't happen originally. That collaboration didn't happen. And so when we talk about building power or who's going to get things done, we have to know we literally don't have the numbers. Right? We don't have the numbers to get the things done that we necessarily want for us. So in order to get those things done, we have to build coalition around the state. And so what did happen was the Senate Bill 4 was filed by the President of the Senate, the most powerful person in the Kentucky General Assembly, and that bill passed, right? But we have to know and understand that if we don't, like literally we, at this point in the game, that whatever the majority party wants to do at the state level, they can do it without us. And if we want to be at the table and also build our own power, we have to work with them, whether you want to or not. And again, when it comes to law enforcement, and as you said, how do we do this? The only way that we're going to get policing somewhat right in this state is we have to work with Republicans, and we're going to have to work with white folks across the state. We're going to have to work with the black folks across the state. We're going to have to work with the business community. We can't do it by ourselves. We're not going to be able to do it by ourselves. I mean, we have the passion to want to do it by ourselves, but in the reality, as far as the power,
It's not gonna happen.
I want your next question, but I just want to say, I'll add to that over 40 seats run unopposed. So the people who are sitting there could not have been there if we get behind people who are running, good people who are running. All parties have failed us, but our Democratic Party does not put up enough support behind good candidates across the state. That none of those people should run unopposed. And that is what I want you to call and tell your cousins and your friends. If people don't, and I get it, coming inside and being an elected official isn't for everyone, but there are some great candidates out there who put their neck out there and who don't get the support. And that some of those people sitting there, at least 40 of them, could not be there if we get behind and support. And that means if you can't be there, you donate. If you can't donate, you go and put in volunteer time. You share about it. All of us got cousins across the state, even me. My family on the parish side started in Winchester, Kentucky. And so we all got family across the state, but are we talking to them when these seats come up? Because it's disheartening to me to see that those seats run unopposed, and then those same people who get grandfathered into those seats make all these terrible laws and things that we have to live with. So it is everybody has to do their part. I think Couture is right. We have to be willing to work around across lines of differences. We have to put our egos to the side and stop making things personal. We have to keep the work of the people first, the greater good first. And all of that, you ain't gotta go party with them, but we can get this work done together. And that's what I try to do. Like, it's not about, everybody's not gonna be your best friend, but we can work together to pass good policy to get good people elected. And that's what I want us to focus on as Kentuckians.
In regards to the Couture, talking about coalitions and the power of coalitions and things like that, I'm not sure how many are familiar with the People's Consent Decree Coalition that you all have been so graciously providing us with guidance for, which we're very grateful for. But at this juncture, with all these surprises, the surprise of the press conference, we were all surprised by that announcement. One thing that I noticed is the police were lined up along the whole back wall of that room, and that's something that I had not seen, and it was very reminiscent of 2020. It was very reminiscent of the riot lines, letting us know that we're in charge here. And then you hear Chief Humphrey get up and he says that this is our city, and it's almost like, you see that resistance towards the community. And then you go to the council meetings, the budget meetings where, Councilwoman Parrish Rife is trying to pass the People's Consent Decree resolution, and then you see the resistance from the entire, I'm sorry, not the entire council. How many votes was it? The majority of the council. All right. So the resistance that we're receiving as community members, as coalition, as council people, at this point, we're saying that no matter what happens in the federal, government, no matter what the DOJ does, whether this Judge Beaton signs this consent decree or not, we still have to live, eat, breathe, teach, take care of children in this community. So I love the suggestion about the power of coalitions. So on behalf of the People's Consent Decree Coalition, one question I have for you all is, we're at that space, like I said, we're tired of seeing resistance. We're continuously, showing resistance as community members. What would be an example of a long-term strategy? What would be an example of a short-term strategy that you all would suggest? Like, we've talked about collective power mapping, we've talked about seeing who holds influence over certain, agencies, or, we talked about looking at the budget, because at the end of the day, our taxpaying dollars are the ones that are going to fund this consent decree and everything else. We're going to fund if LMPD kills another black woman. We're going to fund, our taxpayer dollars take care of all of that. So as concerned taxpaying citizens, what would you suggest would be one long-term strategy? What would be one short-term strategy? Just one clear cut of each that you would throw out there for us. And I mean, this includes, like I said, budget, elections, power mapping, all of that.
So a couple of things. One, I want to be really careful about putting strategy out in the public atmosphere. So I want to really talk about that. But the other thing is, for the long term, we know that we got Councilwoman Parrish Wright, who's on the Public Safety Committee. The Public Safety Committee on Metro Council is talking about these various issues. So we need to show up to those public safety meetings on a regular basis. The other is, for the short term, Louisville Metro government does a budget every year. So we are about to enter the budget cycle for Louisville Metro government, which means that we need to demand that there are more public hearings on the budget. Last year, we could barely get one. Barely get one public meeting. How in the world can the people of Louisville participate in our budget decision-making with one public meeting? That is not possible. So we need to push our council members and we need to push the mayor to make sure that we have more public hearings related to the public budget that gets passed every year. And y'all, I'm sure know that the police got a 5% increase in the city's budget last year in 2024. So for all your cousins and grandmas and uncles and them who got mad if you said defund the police, that was never gonna happen. They got more money. And they may be getting a new jail. So they definitely get the new headquarters, and they got 2 nice workout facilities. So they are not hurting, and they've got some new vehicles. It's a very nice new vehicle, so they are not hurting. Nobody's defunding them, but they're defunding public services time and time again. And to your point about the People's Consent Decree, it has only been met with hostility from Louisville Metro government and from the Louisville Metro Police Department. Has only been met with hostility, and that's what we experienced when we were in Frankfurt. Y'all, we tried. Right? We tried to work with as many partners as we could. And then when the people said they wanted to come up here and hold a rally, for the first time ever, they sent out an alert to staff and elected officials and said, be careful, because there are people from Louisville coming up here to do a rally. I was like, well, this is new. Y'all didn't post this when the gun folks came up and were doing their gun rally. But they constantly put us under attack and fight us every step of the way. So I don't want to put too much strategy out there because folks are watching on live streams, but the long term, show up to those public safety meetings. Short term, get involved with the budget process. That's when we can make a difference.
And I really want to tell you, it's working. I know it doesn't look like it, but the needle is moving. Do we have the outcomes we want right now? No, I think Juanita alluded to that, but it's going to take time. And I think that the short-term goals is like we've talked about, beyond elections. Nothing in this progressive in our state has happened without collective coalition work. That's just how we move. But I think what Attica's saying is true. They're studying everything we do. We're pushing them. Having that press conference that you all led, that was powerful. And I know that they jump and they like to just give everything to the press, but we're making them jump and move, jump and move, jump and move. So I don't want you all to walk away and think nothing is working. Groups like the 490 Project, the work that you all are doing, all of these groups are working on different parts. They're following the money. Those of us on inside are trying to reduce the red tape. We're asking questions we never asked before. And when Attica Scott was a council person, she said, Shamika, it really made me think about, like, we're reading the budget more. She said, when I was on council, I thought about that. I was like, we didn't really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We just, and so there's less rubber stamping happening. It has caused some chaos, but it's really good that people are asking the questions. And so it is so hard, like I said when we was at the square, it's like we're in front of their castle. I mean, the police will never solve gangs because they operate as a gang, and they don't want to admit that. They're center of a lot of the violence we see. Because if you're telling young people put down the guns, but then they see you come to their loved one and they're dead in 11 seconds over an umbrella, that is not telling them that. It's telling them that I need guns to have power and control. And they're focused on removing illegal guns, but they're not focused on ending the gun violence that they cause. And so it's a contradiction that our youth cannot get with. And so I don't think they can ever solve it. I think that once our youth see that they're held accountable, that they serve jail time, like somebody has said, then folks will start waking up and saying, oh, they're being held to the same accords that we are being held to. There, when I did the bail reform work, people were so negative. The clerk's office, records, all these people are like, I can't believe you're bailing these people out. But when it was a police officer, there was a different conversation. When it was a corrections officer, so it's different when it's those people. And like Victoria has said, some of these people are our family, we live with them, we work with them, but it's a leadership issue as well. It's not about a black chief. The snake has been on its loose for a long time, and just putting a head on there is not going to change the internal corruption and things that they're dealing with. And I can't say that I'm against police corruption without people saying, oh, she just hates all the police. That's not what I'm saying. I said I hate corruption. So we're letting an entity that is an enforcement arm run our city, and they're not capable of running our city. And that's why you see so much issues with power and corruption. But also the chief is the highest paid person in metro government. And he makes more than the mayor. And so, and I've been telling people that, if you look at where the money is, and I know that some of that stuff, like Lanita said, is set by the state statute. But because we got to fight this in a multifaceted way, it burns you out. It makes you feel like you're not doing nothing, but you are. The fact that we are here and we're standing up against the corruption of LMPD together, this isn't just a District 1 or a District 3 thing. This is a county thing. This is a statewide thing. And so we got to keep pushing, because like it or not, I know they hate it in Frankfurt, but Louisville is not only the economic generator, we're setting a moral code for our whole state. So when you show up, when you question things, when you put good people in office, when you have coalitions and you are effective, you are moving the needle. And I don't want you to walk away and feel like nothing's working. I'm only here because of you all. I'm only here because it's Tamika and Bianca. And before I had one friend and then two friends in Frankfurt, right? And now we got to get them more help and people there. So I think that it is working. I don't want you all to walk away feeling defeated, but we're fighting the biggest, most violent and corrupt gang in our city's history. And if you don't see what I'm saying with that, if you can't, people even from the inside feel it. People have filed lawsuits. Look at the gentleman that just came out about his lawsuit. So like, I believe Couture is right, but who's gonna be with them when they get retaliated against? Like I was saying with Lanita, we had over 112 pro bono attorneys coming together doing that Justice for Breonna Taylor movement. And then are we giving those same attorneys business to keep doing that? Because guess what? They won't be appointed to judge because they stood up with us. They won't get they won't probably be elected. They'll put people there to get them elected. So we gotta fight and protect our people. And like Attica said, I don't talk about the death threats for me and my team, the security, being out there, being called by the FBI, not once but twice, into their offices. No other mayoral candidate went through that. I did. And them coming to my house, and them asking me to say this and say that, and check my phone records and check my emails. I know I have an FBI file. So I'm telling you all, it's deeper than that. And when we do stick our neck out there, we don't know how to take care of each other. And that's what makes it feel like it's lonely. But we are doing something powerful. I get messages from the inside and outside from all sorts of people. The eyes of the world are on us right now. We gotta keep with it. We gotta stay with it. Pull back if you need to. Go to school, go to vacation. I'm even losing weight. But figure out what you need to do to take care of yourself. Put that mask on yourself first and come back out. I just want to tell you, it's hard, but it's working.
All right, I'm getting the side eye. I'm really Well, I'm going to let these ladies do a closing, and then before they do that, I just want to thank everybody.
My name is Connie Marshall. I'm 73 years old. I own my Jaguar, I own my home, and I'm paying on my Toyota, and I still work in property management. But I'm here to tell you that you're dealing with systemic racism and organized crime. I've been a victim for 20 years, and I'm going to tell you one of the highest sources of it is the FBI. I have a website, justiceforallcitizens.com, that I've had for several years, and I've got a lot of stuff on it, and a lot of stuff I haven't put on it. When you go on my website, you're going to see a white man on my website who is an FBI agent who tried to break into my back door, and then I taped him on my front door. He said I contacted him on Craigslist for a date. I taped all that. That's on my website, justiceforallcitizens.com. I don't go on Craigslist or any website looking for any dates. He was proven to be an FBI agent by Samantha Rose, who works for the United States Department of Justice, who was here during the Breonna Taylor murder. And I spoke with her out on Dixie Highway. I took a picture of him out there. I said, this is the man Louisville Metro Police said they sent to murder me. She says, I know him, he's FBI. The 2 emails from Louisville Metro Police are on my website, justiceforallcitizens.com, on the page entitled Death Threats and Setups. You received death threats, I received 30 of them, called me niggers and slaves and all of that. But I'm not going to take up all your time, but it's systemic, all this is systemic, and it's also organized crime. They have set up a PNC bank account since 2018. All the receipts come to me. I went to PNC, I don't have a bank account with PNC. They're stealing Social Security money. I contacted the controller of the currency. I sent that certified mail on December the 12th. My mail was intercepted on December the 21st. And that's the kind of stuff I've been going through for 20 years. So I'm telling you, it's not just the police. The DCI, I contacted him. His name is Wolf. I was told to contact him by Human Rights Commission. He told me, we're not going to get involved with your dealings with the police. And if you keep calling here, we're going to come down there and I said, are you threatening me? The county attorney's office is involved. The county, and nobody's going to sue me. They might kill me, but they're not going to sue me because they gave me all the evidence. How stupid they are. They give you all the evidence and you've been doing it for years. The county attorney's office sent a fax to himself with his fax number at the top. Anybody knows when you send yourself a fax, your fax number's at the top. Said, do something about this lady. She's running up and down the street spitting on cars. We're afraid to let our kids out. Neighbors of 1814 South 23rd Street. My neighbors got a copy. They didn't send it. The county attorney's office faxed it to himself. And this is the kind of stuff that's going on, has been going on for years.
Wow. Justice for all citizens.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Cavalcanti. I've been active since Breonna Taylor. I'm involved mainly with the Police Merit Board and Metro Council on that. So I have one question, and maybe it goes to closings. You want to do that? If the judge does not sign the consent decree, do you feel there is a will and the capability for the community, activists, nonprofits to come together and step up under one banner and one voice to create a community-led honoring team?
Thank you.
You killed 3 birds in one stone. Who wants to tackle that question? Want to close with that? Okay, let's close with that. And
I think there is a will for it. And if there isn't a will, there needs to be a will. Because it's absolutely mandatory that we work together as a collective. Everything we've gone through, everything we're gonna go through, is much bigger than any one person here, any one death, any one non-death, because like not all unconstitutional police encounters end in death, right? And so I think it's imperative that we work together as a community. I don't think we do it enough. And I think that's why we are where we are, where we have everyone kind of on edge about what's to come after Monday. Right?
so what are some strategies that you
We passed questions. We're closing now. I feel like I've given out strategy. Like I've given out strategy all day. If we don't realize, we have to, if we don't get in this political game, and I don't mean just electing people, there's people who have to run. I'm not running. I don't have the desire for anybody to run through my background and see it, but I'm not running for anything. But we do need people to run. Like I said, I think we're late. If we don't have a mayoral candidate in mind to put up, we're behind the ball until by the end of this month. That was the end of February. We should be behind the candidate, have some money into a campaign for that candidate to really run a race. Like, we're always, to a certain extent, playing checkers when they playing chess. And I don't want this to sound harsh, but sometimes we gotta focus on the right thing. We can get distracted by some of the smallest things. Like, I think that Attica made a point, like Mayor Greenberg said that he was gonna have a consent decree signed in the fall. We should have been on his neck in the fall. We shouldn't have let it get all the way to December when we knew we don't, like, if it ain't signed in a month, it ain't gonna get signed, because guess what? That's what Mayor Greenberg was hoping, that he got by without signing it before January 20th. Because if it wasn't signed before Monday, it was never gonna get signed. Like, we ain't gotta worry about the judge, whether the judge signed it, the city was never gonna sign it. And so we have to really focus on, I don't care that they had a press conference, I don't give a damn who was at the press conference, what it looked like, any of that. I care that it was signed by the city. And so we gotta, when we talk about strategy, it's focusing on the important things and what goals we really wanna object. I think we at the top of that goals, we need more political power, period. That's at the top of it. Then it's how do we get there to that political power? What else do we want to be, since it's about the consent decree, we want to be safe from the police. But not only do we want to be safe from the police, we want our constitutional rights protected. Everybody in Louisville should be making a living wage, right? And $15, I kept doing the math, $15, that ain't even a living wage. Like, when you think about how much housing is in this city, like, we have so many problems, and I said, like, I go back and I turn back to November and the election and all the things. I said, I'm sorry, people who are, and I tell my friends, I said, I have to sometimes recognize that I'm not the majority of people anymore. And I'm not saying that income-wise, I'm not the majority of people. I'm not at the gas station trying to figure out, well, how much gas can I put in my car to make sure I still have something to eat, right? I'm gonna fill my tank up and I'm gonna go get something to eat. Thankfully, I can do that. But the people who are worried about that, they didn't give a damn about a woman's right to choose, and that was the only thing they was hearing from candidates. They can't fathom, like, they trying to figure out how to eat. And so at some point, we really have to figure out the collective and how we're gonna meet the needs of the collective and everything. And I do care about a woman's right to choose, so I don't want anybody to think I don't. Let me clarify that. I do care, but what I'm going at is we have to think outside of our own and what it is we want. Like, police brutality is important to me, and making sure we have reform, all criminal justice reform is very important to me. But to get everybody on board to really build those coalitions the way we need to build those coalitions, we really have to put, like, long-term strategy. We got to pull in all those things that are impacting people every day.
Y'all not gonna like what I gotta say. But somebody gotta say it. Historically, the black church was the cornerstone of the movement. We have got to hold the black churches accountable for the state of our community. There was a time where we could always depend on the black church institution to assist our people. I'm not saying all, but there are some black churches you call and say, hey, I need help with my utility bill, I need some food, I need this, I need that. They'll have no problem. I've heard some people say that. That is horrible. But if they start missing tabs in their collection plate, they may get some attention on that. Also, we're going to have to be prepared to do a simulation of the Montgomery bus boycott. I'm probably talking too much, like Attica said. You don't need to be saying everything. So I'm just going to say a few little tidbits. We're going to have to be prepared to do some things historically that have worked We have become too comfortable, too concerned about what somebody thinks, how it's gonna look. Am I going to offend her? Am I going to? Now I'm going to say one thing that I'm going to because I talk too much. The women are on the job. The women are leading. We need the men to stand up. Now, not all. I'm not saying all men are not standing up, but not nearly enough. We need you with us. This is not male against female, this kind of thing. But we need to work collaboratively, both the men, both the women, LGBTQ, everybody working collaboratively and collectively for the same goal. That may be different in our approach, that's okay. But we've got to come together. Follow me. We're about to approach Dr. King's birthday and what he stood for. Are we going to make his life, what he lived for, what he fought for, what he died for, in vain? I don't think so. So let's come together. Let's show more love for each other. It's enough hate to go around. Let's stop hating on one another. It's too much of it. I'm sick of it. If you bring it to me, I'm not going to listen to you. That's it. That's it. Stop listening to people that hate this person. Or hate, I don't like her. I don't like him. That is childish. It's killing us. Let's start organizing now, and hey, we're doing the work, okay? And there's many people in the audience now that are working their behinds off, like Rhonda Mack is out there every day. Gracie Lewis, Monica, there's many of you out there. Let's get the momentum going. Let's stop hating on one another. Let's love each other. Not only during this period of historical civil rights, but it's going to be the only thing that's going to save us and get us through this period, these next 4 years. And like Senator Harris was saying, some people, you'll do a little bit of work, then you go home and you can turn on the television or whatever, play checkers or watch Housewives of Atlanta, all of this stuff that means nothing. So that's all I want to say to y'all. Love you guys. There's nothing you can do about it. Let's love each other. Let's work together. I know we can do it. Thank you.
We're not done.
No, you're good. Take care, guys. Love you soon.
I want to say, first of all, I love Louisville and I care deeply about Kentucky. And I agree that the people have the will. I don't believe politicians have the will. I just don't. Exactly. So at the local and state level, I'm not feeling it. What I will say, though, is we got to support Councilwoman Parrish Wright, who, like Shantae said, was trying. She had the People's Consent Decree resolution. The party that we choose to identify with, not sure how much longer that's going to be the case, but the party we choose to identify with, they didn't even support the People's Consent Decree resolution. It was not a law, it was a resolution. A resolution. So if the consent decree does not get approved by Judge Beaton, then we might find Councilwoman Parrish Wright back at it, trying to get something like the People's Consent Decree passed, the resolution, so that we can do the people's business as it relates to that. So that's something that we gotta look out for. How do we support, if we wanna indeed see something happen, how do we support people like Mark, who's already got this great idea about how we expand this conversation, Bianca, that you put together. He's already like, okay, how can we take these different places? Because it's necessary. There's so many people who don't even know about the consent decree. And I don't get mad at them because there's life. People are life, breathe life, and that's what people are trying to do, live every single day. But when you have people who absolutely can break this 200+ page document down, let's make it happen in different forms, in different fashions. And to your point, Shantae and everybody else who's been asking these questions one-on-one and in this big group, what we need to do if we don't have a People's Consent Decree, and I think you said it, Attorney Baker, is that we, the people, have to rise up. Now unfortunately, there are a lot of folks out there, I love my people, but they be scared. They don't want to escalate the tactics. They want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, as if sending mass emails, as if calling every single day is moving these folks, and we see that it's not. At some point, we're going to have to do something more. Like you said, as you said, Commissioner. Like you said, Commissioner, we're going to have to do a lot more. We're going to have to demand. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam, for that.
I'm sitting here looking at symbols of all of our ancestors, right? At some point, we tap back to all of these symbols of our ancestors. And I remember me and Tamika Palmer did, a session with Lamont Collins about, being a better ancestor and what we were doing. He brought us together as mothers of the movement. Here's the thing, nobody signed up for this shit, right? Nobody. Do y'all think, like, my kids give me the blues about my role, about what I post, about me being out there, being, when I'm here and I'm in my main community and I'm representing, I'm taking away from 6 kids and 4 grandkids, right? So I'm very serious, I laugh, smile because I love life, but I'm very serious because at the end of the day, I gotta tell them it mattered. I gotta show them, I want them to see the examples. And I'll be short because I want to hear from Mr. Blake. There's no way we can have him here and not have him speak. And I want to hear from Brother Collins. But I remember years ago when Fisher was getting elected and Connie Marshall was running in. There were like 29 people. We held a candidates forum at Metro United Way, and it was like 29 people running for office, right? It was a lot, but I loved it. I love the fact that people were willing to do that and stick their neck out there. So when somebody sticks their neck out there, we gotta support them. And I don't know if you all know this, Couture knows this, Lanita, more than 70% of our voters are white, y'all. I'm pro-black. I hate when people question my blackness, because there's days I want to slap everybody at the table, but I can't be violent anymore, right? So I've learned to fight in another way, and that's through advocacy, that's through activism, that is community organizing. And that means that white people have to be with us too, right? And that means working through it. And the white people who know how to be led by a black woman, by a black man, by a black movement. And those are the white people that we see showing up, that we see even in my election results. I went today to volunteer overnight for a shelter, and 3 of those 6 white women in that, when I went to that Christ Cathedral, said, I voted for you. It happened so much, and I'm like, damn, should I ask for a recount? But no, it's too bad. But, so, more than 70% of our voters are white, y'all. So, I have somebody on council, or a colleague, who said to me, Shamika, I know it's hard, I know they give you a hard time, but I think about every time you tell people to show up, every time, even with your you being sworn in, so many people will show up for you as that black woman that's represented. You got people, you got a village. And sometimes when I stick my neck out there, I worry, I'm scared. If I speak about a budget, if I ask certain questions, I don't have that same amount of people that's gonna fill up those, the room and say, hey, you better have her back. And sometimes I feel privileged, like we can't be racist, but we can be privileged, I don't take the people for granted, but I know that I got a village out there, right? And that keeps me going. So let's not forget, when people are doing right, let's show up for them. Let's tell them thank you for doing right. Extra credit, but do right consistently, and it changes things. Consistency will continue to change. I wouldn't be here without we get there together, because I knew we deserved better. I showed up because I knew my daughters would be out there, right? I showed up as a mama first. And then I had a job that they didn't control. I didn't get any local or state money. So I could move how I needed to move on the ground, because my employer was not in Kentucky, was not in Louisville. But bet your bottom dollar, they called to LA, they called to New York. They tried to shut me down the whole time I ran the Bail Project, the whole time. Now I'm working for another employer that's based in New York. It's a strategy. I knew what I was doing, because I knew if I worked for somebody local, they would pick up the phone and say, no, you want that money budget session? Get rid of her. If you all don't know that happens here, I don't know what to tell you. It's very retaliatory. And they want to control the narrative. They want to do PR stunts. I'm here because I live it. I live the data. I live it with you, and my family is living it with you. I think about Brianna. Brianna comes from working class. Poor and working class people are under attack in every way. So what Couture is talking about, maybe, like Juanita said, everybody's not dying from police abuse, but they're losing their assets. That's something that can help you connect to somebody across Kentucky. Did they just break in your house? Because that's what they were really trying to do to Brianna. You don't think they've done that before? I've heard from my legal friends that it was a classic girlfriend's case. You go in there, you shake her down, you get what you want, you scare people. And like Juanita said, the whole process is corrupt because you chose who you chose. But Judge Shaw lost her job. I'll say it, Daniel Cameron lost his job. Who else will lose their job? And if we stick together, we can make sure that we get somebody that's going to represent. Because we are focusing on building political power. That is when people say, Shamika, I don't do politics, how do you do that? They are doing you every day. Every damn day, them politics are doing you. So even if you don't want to get involved, donate. Everybody don't have to be the candidate like Juanita said. You can be a campaign manager. You can go and host hot dog parties and let people raise money. You can do other roles. You don't have to be in that role. And you can also help us. You can tell us when some bad things are coming in. Like people warn us from so many jobs, and we protect all of us here. Protect a lot of people that work for the system. We protect our people because we need those people in those positions. That don't mean being fake. It means that I need you in that role. I need Couture in that Senate, even if she is outnumbered, because I know I have an advocate in her. I know that when them days I can't go to Frankfurt, she's fighting. That's just how I felt when Attica was there. So we gotta understand our role. You all have a role. Y'all know I'm always pushing activism, advocacy, and community organizing. And if you can't do anything political, because I know some of y'all get scared and you're like, I can't risk my job. I get that. You can donate and join organizations. Donate under 100, so you ain't got to be reported to CREF, right? But you got to figure out what your strategy is. Because the next person that if you choose, I don't know if it's going to be me. I would have to give up a strong Democratic seat to run for mayor again. And even if I make it through primary, you guess what? You might have me and a Bill DeRuff or a Jason Nemes. And who do you think some of these conservative Democrats going to vote for? Right? So don't ask somebody to get there if you're not going to back them up all the way, because it gets more dangerous for me. I mean, Greenberg can't get shot again, thank God. But don't make sure get shot at. But it gets dangerous for people like me, because when they can't get to me, I had to tell my husband, no affairs, don't go by no weed, don't get pulled over, no DUIs. I had to tell my 4 daughters the same thing. Even watch your boyfriends. Everybody can't come to my house. Like, it is that serious. It is that dangerous for a black progressive woman, because at any given moment, you are the most vulnerable person in that room, just like Couture is in Frankfurt. So if you know you can't have their back, shut the hell up and donate and support in another way. But don't set somebody up for failure if you're not going to have their back, because we're putting it all on the line. Do you think that any of these big organizations and corporations that are connected to Greenberg will hire any of us? Do you think any of us will be hired locally? No. Hell no. So that's how deep it goes, and it will continue to go. So I'm willing, I'm here, I'm a jump off the porch person. You make it make sense, you got me. I am definitely going to file the People's Consent Decree again, because it needs to be documented, these harms, because we're not going to get it all. Even in this 242 pages, there's a lot of stories and lives that are not included. Their experiences are not included. So we need that People's Consent Decree to formally recognize that. And if we want to make sure that good people stay in office and are held accountable, we got to do it no matter their color. And the last thing I say is white people, don't choose your favorite black, because if your favorite black step out of line, you got to say something. You know, if we have people who are not voting right on that council or at state office, I don't want you supporting me just because I'm black. I want you supporting me because I'm committed and I love our city, our state, and I want things to be better. It's okay, it's business. It's not personal. Replace who we need to replace, and let's keep going. Thank you.
The only thing that I will add to this conversation today, and I have failed to mention this when we're talking about the political power and our elected officials, Oftentimes we in Louisville, we say down across the state, and I feel like that I kind of insinuated that myself tonight. As we're talking about how do we get policy passed or the harmful policy that is being passed that is targeting specifically Louisville. I want to be very clear, you mentioned some of the names of those folks, but the things that are happening to Louisville or that are not happening for Louisville, it is based on our Republican state legislators. They from Louisville. So, and I know that a lot of people want to think that just black folks are in the West End. Black folks are across Jefferson County, and so it's very important for you to know who your elected is, but also get out and find out who those other elected officials are at the state level, your senators and the state representatives who are representing Jefferson County, because actually those are the individuals that are controlling what is and what is not happening for Louisville. So when we talk about not being able to get the things we need for police, if those Jefferson County state elected officials that are Republicans, if they supported it, guess what it would happen? The reason why we are going to have nonpartisan elections for our mayor and our council is because Jefferson County state legislators wanted that to happen. Right, and so I just want that to be clear. I feel like that I did not say that. I was not very clear on that. And so I think it is important that we have to stop saying down across the state is doing this to us. It is our Jefferson County Republican state legislators who are allowing things to happen in Jefferson County and who is not allowing things to happen for Jefferson County.
First of all, this was awesome. But as a historian and somebody that loves our community, somebody that didn't ask permission to tell our story, it's been telling our story every day, 365 days a year. When I listen to you guys today, I close my eyes and go back to 1950. Close my eyes to 1960. So we've been here before. This is nothing new to the black community. Nothing new. But here's what's happening. We're not choosing to fight away from the TV cameras. See, history was in the church basement and the home of somebody in the neighborhood, and that's where the strategy was made. See, this is one issue. We got 20,000 issues with black people in this country. So what I like to see is the old person in the room, is that we break down and do what our ancestors have told us to do. And that's fight collectively. Not all skin, but all skin. I get that, right? But at the time and day that we live in today, come Monday, we're going back in time. So the question that everybody in this room, and I rocked all of you. A lot of you thought I couldn't pull this off. I talked every day about we couldn't do it. Every day. You know what I'm talking about. Been there. But that didn't stop what we had to do. That's right. So the question is, what are we going to do from now on? Are we going to support the mission we're talking about here? And everything, it used to be a time, they said the revolution would be televised. Well, how are you going to televise something that Elon Musk and all other rich white people own? So you need to get off the internet and start working in them basements to get where we have to go. Because when we get there, we got to plan. See, but if you're telling everybody to plan, you can't ever get there. So, what I'm saying, I always have open house. But we ain't got to invite everybody to the house. So we're going to go to the next step. I go with you. But we ain't bringing everybody in the house while we discuss what we need to do. Because that's what we are now. And again, love everyone up. Something's got to get bigger and better. There's a proverb that says, the African king proverb I always talk about. It says the greatest king plants shade trees that never set up on them. So all I'm here is to plant shade trees so you guys can keep going forward. But when I say this is your house, this is your house. And I've said it from day one. And I mean that. But let's get off the internet and strategize what we're going to do. Let's strategize.
Brother Lamont, and then I'll just let me thank everybody for coming out. Make sure you all follow us at thefamilies-united.org. Just to continue to work, get an update on what we're doing with the LMPD consent decree. You can also find my email information and all kind of good stuff on the email. And of course, make sure you all follow the work that these women is doing in the community. This panel is just giving their flowers, while they're here. These women work effortlessly, tirelessly, and they don't get enough credit. And I just appreciate every last one of them for being here, and it means so much to me, and I thank you all. And I'm gonna let Jacob take this on out, and I appreciate you all for coming out.
For those that don't know me, I know everybody up here does. I'm Jacob Legacy, co-founder of Families United. First of all, Big Brother Collins, thank you. Ladies, nothing but respect. I love y'all. And we're gonna fight together. Louisville. 10 days ago, they amputated the third toe on my right foot. I'm a fighter. I'm in this movement for real. If I had 2 toes, I'd be here. When I was adopted by Breonna Taylor's family, that shit was real. It wasn't an act. It's not a play thing. And we strategized in the garage with the door closed. So like my uncle used to say, nobody knows where it goes. We are not to be followed, mimicked, or to be fake. Right? No fear can be anywhere around your heart. And if you have fear, trust me, stay at the crib. Stay at home. But donate so that we can keep fighting. So if I go down to 6 toes, I'm still in it. 1 leg, I'm crawling. But the fight has to continue, man. We have to be ready for anything that happens. Unity. It's about unity. It's always been about unity. Hatred, no place for us. You know we don't have no place for that. Hatred, backstabbing, no. You stand up. If there's 2 of you, then the fight goes on. If there's one, pray for somebody else to come out. But we're not going to be beat, Louisville. We're not going to be beat, Louisville. That's right. Because we're going to stand up. That's right. And we're going to continue to fight. And I'm going to continue to come to Louisville and fight with my sisters. Because I am a warrior.
Take us on now. Y'all be safe going home. Hopefully we don't get no more snow. Please make sure y'all donate to all our beautiful organizations so we can continue to work. Donate to Roots101 African American Museum so we can continue to hold space.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
We will not make excuses. We will make changes.
It is our duty.
It is our duty to must love and support. We must love.
The mayor still plan to spend this money in the same way following this announcement? And if so, why does he think he has the authority?
We have nothing to lose.
I've been here every day.
We have nothing to lose but our chance. But our chance.